Gather twigs to build a bird's nest. In life you have to gather twigs to build a bird's nest.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the MDetroit podcast. My name is Mark Rosenblatt. Here with me is Dominic Waddles.
Hey! On today's episode, we have the one and only Vincent Chandler. Vincent Chandler is one of Detroit's top trombone players and has played with many greats as Herbie Hancock, Marcus Miller, Joe Henderson, and many others. In this episode, we talk about the learnings from many greats, his compositions, and playing with Roy Hargrove, plus much more.
Yes, so much more. This episode was a huge educational thing. It was absolutely incredible to talk to Vincent. Also, right now in the background, you are listening to Vincent's own composition entitled Bird's Nest. So, stick around and please enjoy our conversation with Vincent Chandler.
Gather twigs to build a bird's nest.
Well, I guess we can start the podcast.
To the MDetroit podcast.
Yeah, this is the MDetroit podcast. We really appreciate
you are our third guest.
Yes.
I'm honored. Thank you. I really appreciate you all having me.
Yeah, we appreciate you being willing to be on the podcast. We're so honored that you would be down to do this. What we like to do and the way that we like to start things off is kind of to put the guest on the spot. And we're going to read you your bio. And we want to see, and we'll go from there. So Vincent Chandler is a native Detroiter and protege of one of the strongest eras of the Detroit jazz scene, having studied and or performed with local heroes such as Donald Walden, Ken Cox, Harold McKinney, Teddy Harris, Marcus Belgrave, Matt Michaels, Francisco Mora, Eddie Nucci, Wendell Harrison, Spencer Bearfield, Ronald Kischuk, James Carter, Marion Hayden, Regina Carter, and Rodney Whitaker. He has also performed internationally with jazz legends such as Herbie Hancock, Marcus Miller, Joe Henderson, Clark Terry, Jazz at Lincoln Center featuring Wynton Marsalis, Oliver Lake, Bobby Watson, Jerry Allen, Roy Hargrove, Robbie Coltrane, J.D. Allen, Marcus Strickland, Wycliffe Gordon, and Walter Smith III, Robert Hurst, Jeff Tain Watts, Russell Malone, Randy Brecker, and Ambrose Akinmusri. He's a featured soloist on Requiem from Roy Hargrove's only big band CD called Emergence, James Carter's At the Crossroads, and Rodney Whitaker, Carl Allen's Work to Do. In 2014, he released his first CD as a bandleader called Vincent Chandler's Embraceable, including Robert Hurst on bass. Mr. Chandler earned his Bachelor of Fine Arts in Music and a Master of Music and Improvisation from the University of Michigan. He was a graduate student instructor and eventually a lecturer of jazz studies at the University of Michigan. He was an instructor of jazz trombone and jazz octets at Michigan State University. He was also an instructor and director of jazz studies at Claflin University and applied low brass instructor at South Carolina State University. And now you are a teacher or a professor and instructor at Wayne State University. So after hearing all of this, which is this is amazing. I mean, the list of musician goes on. It's so great to hear. If there's anything, would you change or would you add anything to your bio?
I can't recall if I heard the fact that I played with Marcus Miller on a Playboy Jazz Festival cruise. Did you say that?
I do believe that Marcus Miller is in this bio. Yes.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I didn't remember hearing that. But if I somehow left that off, I definitely would have wanted to include that because when I played with Marcus Miller, we played with Herbie Hancock. We were the band who supported Herbie Hancock, and I even got to take a solo with Herbie Hancock stomping behind me. So I'd hoped that I had included that. But now the thing about a bio is Uh, when you've been on the jazz scene for over 30 years, it's really hard to include all of the important experiences in your life. But I think my goal with that bio is that I just wanted to show that I am rooted in Detroit. I've played with a lot of the masters on the local scene, and I've had some opportunities to play with some of the international jazz stars. Um, you know, so that was really the point. I'm sure there's a few things I could have added, a few things I've left off, but I think I felt like I would have been dropping too many names. I could have dropped too many names, even with what you read so far.
Yeah.
Just, ooh. Oh, ooh. Gotta catch my breath.
Now, the funny thing about my career in music is that I do have several high points in my career, but most of my life, most of my adult life, I've been working 9-to-5 jobs, non-music jobs. I didn't graduate until I was 40 years old with my undergraduate degree and my master's degree at the age of 42. So you're talking about from the time I graduated at the age of 17 until I was 42 years old. I always maintained full-time employment, non-music employment. For instance, when I played with Joe Henderson, I went out to California for 2 weeks. I played with him for a week at a club called Yoshi's. And then I played with him for a week at Catalina's. And then and in that band was the phenomenal Stefan Harris. And Eric Harlan was playing drums on that in that band. Just to name a few of the guys. But especially Eric Harlan and Stefan are two of the highly influential musicians, modern musicians today. But when I returned home, I was a janitor. I came right back home after playing with Joe Henderson to mopping floors and cleaning toilets at a dorm at the University of Michigan. I'm probably one of the few people who can say that they got a undergraduate degree, master's degree, and they were a lecturer at the same university that they were a dishwasher, groundskeeper, janitor. The list goes on and on. So yeah. So I think maybe my bio could be deceiving in that it can sound like I've been this highly active musician who's played with everybody, and but the truth is that there's a lot of gaps in my years as a musician because I was one to keep a 9-to-5.
I think that actually separates you from many, because I know we've actually had this conversation, Dom and I, with the other two guests that we had. The idea that like your whole life being music is like, if that doesn't work out, what are you gonna do? And
Right.
I think because you are able to say that you've been able, how you just mentioned, that separates you from a lot of different people, because you're somebody who's not just a musician, but you're somebody who's experienced other things. You've gone through different phases of life, and you are not like someone who's only in the world of music, which isn't to necessarily say that's a bad thing, but more so like that's something that can differentiate somebody from the rest of the pack.
And it's very, very honoring and just great to hear somebody that has done it all, been at the tops, been at the middles, been at the lows, and is such a great figure to look up to every single day when I walk through Wayne State halls. It's just like, that's my professor. I'm proud to go to his class.
Exactly.
And be able to even talk to him. Shoot, have his number. That's big. That's huge to be connected with somebody of high stature. So pretty much you're a legend in my eyes.
Yeah,
Well,
man.
I'm humbled, and I'm truly blessed to be in a position to be considered that. The reason why I say that is because um, like some people, they always, when they're complimented, they want to say, they want to do something to deflect the compliment. For me, I accept that compliment and I love it, and not because I think I'm a legend, is because I know what it's like to look at someone else, to have someone in your life that you look at as a legend, as a someone who has been very impactful and influential in your life. I know how important it is to have heroes, people that you look up to, that can make an impact on your life. So when I was younger, as you read in my bio, my bio mentioned some of those people who I got to see when I was your age, and it's a similar age difference. I think when I was around 17 to 20, some of the guys that I looked up to, they were 20, 30 years older than me. Other than of course the records and some of the other recording artists who were legends, who were still alive. But I looked up to those guys, and uh, eventually I put myself in a position to play with them, and they inspired me, and they gave me a sense of what it means to be a jazz musician. So I feel truly blessed to be able to exist in that same capacity for the next generations of musicians coming out of Detroit.
Definitely.
Yes,
Um,
yes.
um,
So,
yeah, go ahead, Dom.
oh, my bad. But so just as a trombone player, a composer, and just a hard worker, out of all the artists, which ones had the biggest impact on you and why?
I would have to say, first and foremost, my high school teacher, Rodney Bonner, the father of Xavier Bonner. Rodney Bonner was my high school teacher.
Mm-hmm.
He gave me experiences with music in high school that positioned me to become a professional. That gave me an opportunity to perform and understand how good music can make people feel, because our concerts were kind of like the highlights of the school year for our students. And I played with a musician in that band whose father was a blues singer. He would come to the concerts, and then he started hiring me. So I started doing professional blues gigs first, later salsa gigs. But eventually, I came in contact with some of the local legends, and Donald Walden was one of them. He was a tenor saxophone player, soprano saxophonist, who took me under his wings. He started giving me lessons. He didn't charge me, and a phenomenal musician, a true hipster. I mean, in every aspect of his life, everything from how he played to how he dressed, to where he lived. When I used to go get lessons from him, I would go to his loft that was downtown. It was called the New World Stage. He used to do concerts there, and so yeah. Having guys like that in my life, along with Ken Cox, who lived 2 blocks from me, he was a Detroit pianist who had a record deal with Blue Note. There's a famous record of him on Blue Note, and of course he was a phenomenal composer. His music was very conscious, so I got a chance to experience music that really dealt with that addressed social issues. Now, they are the ones who hit me to the musicians who are the most important in my life. People like John Coltrane, Miles Davis, Thelonious Monk, Curtis Fuller on trombone, J.J. Johnson, Louis Armstrong, and the list goes on. And I can say that it's no one obscure. I think I love all of the the list of the great innovators of the history of jazz. I'm a fan of that same list. It's pretty much nothing really exotic about my list, but Wayne Shorter, Sonny Rollins, Dexter Gordon, Freddie Hubbard. These are all the names and for the most part, they are the ones who really molded this thing we call jazz.
Just fantastic right there.
So you also in your bio you have your record Embraceable, and can you talk a little bit about what was the process of making that record, and like what the audience response was, and just general things about the record?
I had already made 2 records with a band that I was a leader of called Urban Transport, and Sean Dobbins was in the band. Dean Moore, who's now a doctor. Joseph Diaz, who's a bass player out of Ann Arbor, producer now. Who am I forgetting? And when it came to piano, we had different piano. The chair kind of rotated when it came to pianists. So in that band, I decided to start performing all original music. So for years with that band, I've been performing original music, and then I opened it up for the other band members to insert original music into our book. So when we recorded our 2 Urban Transport records, it features originals by myself, Sean Dobbins, and Dean Moore. Now, Embraceable is my first record as the band leader, where all of the compositions are my compositions. I have 2 arrangements of standards. One is Nature Boy and Yesterdays, where I did some reharmonizations. I changed the rhythms around, added some bass lines, things like that. But this is an album that's all original music. And one thing that one of my main influences for making that record, outside of the fact that I've been writing music for over 30 years, and it's just long overdue for me to make records. It's just going to be very expensive to do this. Is that I was studying with Jerry Allen at the time, and she really encouraged me to do a quartet record. And I dedicated that record to her. The songs you hear on the CD are songs that I had been performing in the community for years. Some were newer than others, like a song like The Coldest was probably one of the newest ones. It was something that I used a compositional technique that I learned while I was at U of M.
Okay.
And as far as the reception, I have to say, unfortunately, I haven't really had too many people actually tell me what they felt about that record. I can name one person that it's incredible for this person to say they like the record. Mike Dees, who is one of our trombone phenomenons right now in the world. He's just a phenomenal musician. He plays everything on a highly professional level, but he's a trombone genius. And first of all, he actually bought the record, which I was flattered. And then I got a call from him or a text or something like that, and he said that he liked the record. So I was really really proud to get a compliment from a musician of his stature. But I can tell you one thing that's on the record is a song called "Bird's Nest," and that is truly for someone like me. That's like a hit record. That's like a hit tune. I've never let the audience down when I perform that song. I mean, I'm not. I don't want to sound egotistical. It's just the truth that song consistently has been a crowd pleaser. People love it, and I've done it. I've done it many times throughout the years. So I do hear a lot about how that song has impacted people.
Yes, that song. I think every single time I've seen you play, you've played that song, and every single time it sounds so fresh. It's like you don't. First of all, for those of the listeners that don't know, this is a song that features Vincent scatting and singing the melody, and it's so unique to hear you, Professor, like scat the way that you do, because I don't think I know anybody else who does it, and even more so like trombone players too. So it's like truly incredible. I think that to me at least is one of the reasons why I find that song is so unique, because that's like the feature. Yeah.
It is one of the best songs, especially when Lewis did a rendition of it.
Right.
It was just cold. I was like, dang, okay, Professor, you bobbing your head.
Oh yeah. Oh, so you made me remember something. Another person I got a compliment from about that record is Kareem Riggins.
Mm.
You know, so he actually was like, "Yeah, man, I like that record." You know, he loves Bird's Nest. Like he would have other people listen to it out on the West Coast. So you know, yeah, I think it's funny how I think as musicians we really don't directly get to hear what people think. You if you think about it, we perform. And people may give you applause, and it may even give you a standing ovation, but they leave. They you only get a few people who will come up to you and say, you know, this or that song really meant a lot to me. Thanks for playing or whatever. But I never really get a lot of feedback. I've had my concerts critiqued, and which is cool. But that's one person's opinion. But it's cool. It's cool to hear it. When you get a good critique, it's always nice.
Right.
And I think this summer, I've pretty much completed it, is I want to make a songbook out of my original compositions, and I've written over 100 songs, and I've performed most of them, a good number of them, and to a certain degree of success, meaning that the first thing I want to happen is the band members to like my song and enjoy playing it. I want the song to be a playground. I want them to feel inspired and excited by the song. So I my songs have proven to be successful in that light. And then I performed them in clubs throughout the years. They've proven to be successful. But when it comes to how many songs I've recorded, original songs I've recorded, it's only about 15. I've only recorded about 15 to 20 of my original compositions. You know, so I can't wait. That's really my mission now. Like I really I want to make a book of those songs so that each generation after me can have access to the music. There's musicians that have played in my bands and they like those songs, and they want to play. They want to play those songs like they're actually popular songs with other musicians. So, but in making that book, it made me realize that that's where I've fallen short in my life, and that I can't play my own music. Like only because I haven't played my own music, I haven't committed to playing my own music. When you think about Thelonious Monk, when you think about Ornette Coleman, when you think about some of the great innovators, at a certain point in their life, they played their music predominantly, and their sound, their style, is a marriage of their improvisation and their songs. Like, as much as we love Kenny Garrett, it's not just about how he improvises; it's about his songs and how he improvises on his songs that you will remember when we think about Kenny Garrett years from now. It's a marriage of the two. And so I'm at the school right now practicing because I want to become a better improviser, but I also want to learn how to play my songs and really commit to recording my music and having that culminate into hopefully I want to reach my fullest artistic potential.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
Definitely. So, with that said, we talk a lot about Detroit on our podcast. So we have a whole kind of section that we want to ask you just a list of questions.
Okay.
Just based upon what you think about the scene, what you think about some gigs that you have played, the Detroit jazz scene. I already said that, but exposure for musicians and support. So to first start off, do you have any defining moments or experiences that has helped you become a better musician and helped you grow in your artistry and musicianship?
Well, the first thing that came to my head is playing with Roy Hargrove, and the reason why I can mention that in response to a Detroit question is because the way I got to play with Roy Hargrove is because I became a fan of his, and Roy would come to Detroit on a yearly basis.
Okay.
And he played at a club called the Serengeti Ballroom, and he played at a festival actually here on Wayne State's campus. And I knew that I wanted to make an impression on him, so I went to the gig and I said, "Look, Roy, come over to Burt's later tonight for a jam session." We get to Burt's and we play all night, and I'm taking solos after him and this and that. And then near the end of the night, I walked off the stage after taking a solo, and Roy said, "Yeah, man." That's all he said. And I almost had a heart attack.
Oh man.
Yeah, because I was, and so later that night I saw him outside. He was just standing outside. It was almost like God put him there because he was standing outside just looking up at the stars. Really, I'm serious. So I walked out there, and I said, "Look, man. I wasn't trying to impress you, but I was hoping to make an impression on you because I've always wanted to play with you." And I started telling him about how I felt about him. And he said, "You know what, man? You would sound good in my big band." And so from there, I got his number. I got his manager's number. And I was following him. So I learned that they had a gig in New York at the Jazz Gallery. And I tried to call Roy, but Roy didn't answer. And Roy was kind of notorious for not really answering his phone. I'm sure 1,000 people call him. So I got his manager on the phone. And I was like, "Look, man, Roy wants me in the band." He was like, "What?" I was like, "Roy wants me in the band." I was aggressive. He was like, "Well, you don't know the music." And I was like, "Look, don't worry about that. Roy wants me in the band." And I was like, "Trust me, if I get to play with Roy, I'm going to know the music." So I flew myself out to New York. I went to the Jazz Gallery. When Roy saw me, he pointed to me. There was another guy there who was also there to play with the band, but he saw me, was surprised, and he pointed to me to play in the band. Now, I'm only telling that story because what it leads to is several tours with that big band where I had a featured solo on a song called Requiem. And I've never really been in love with my playing, but I'm proud of the solo I take on Requiem on this YouTube video of a concert we did in France. I take a solo on Requiem because that was a solo that I took on a regular basis. I'm really happy with that solo because I think it represents the answer to your question.
Mm.
When I knew I had to take that solo, but it was my responsibility to take that solo, and that it was always placed at a certain part in the show, that it was always meant to be a moment in the show that really uh, aroused the audience. It was one of the few solos in that band where the soloists are usually me and Bruce on alto saxophone. Um, we he would just let us play without there was no set amount of time. Like, we could just stretch and stretch and stretch. And after taking that solo for years, I was taking that solo. And the alto saxophone player's name is Bruce Williams. He's out of New Jersey. I got stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger, and I became freer, and I became more and more confident. So, forgive me for telling you a long story to give you a simple answer.
You're fine.
The level of confidence that I got to was a result of the responsibility of playing. Like, having to show up and be in front of an audience and to not waste their time, to really make them feel good about choosing your performance to witness, that you really gave them something to remember. And to have that responsibility, to live up to that responsibility will make you a better version of yourself. And I say it that way because I didn't become a Michael Dees or Elliot Mason. I just became a better version of myself as a result of opportunities. So now it doesn't have to be on that type of stage. If you make a commitment to go to certain jam sessions on a weekly basis, and you look at it as a responsibility to the listeners, to the band, and more. It's obviously far more than just a responsibility, but when you really make a commitment to being your best self, and constantly putting yourself on a platform where that is revealed or not, you have a chance to get better. So when you talk about the Detroit scene, there was a point before COVID-19 where on every night of the week there was somewhere you can go and play. And there's many cities, states, countries cannot say that there's somewhere to play, there's somewhere to get on stage and to see how you level up when it comes to being your best self. There's not a lot of places that can say that that opportunity is there. So I think the beautiful thing about Detroit is that there's a nice scene of young musicians who are providing music for the fans, keeping them coming out. There's enough venues for music every night for musicians to explore, to improve themselves. And then you have the Detroit Jazz Festival, which is one of the biggest jazz festivals, free jazz festivals in the world, where we get to interact with some of our heroes, and which enhances our dream to play with these guys.
Yeah.
Right. It's just so much information. It's just so wonderful to hear.
Yeah. So you've obviously done over 1,000 gigs, like uncountable. Are there any performances or gigs that you had where the music was just, on fire, and like it was just an incredible experience that you would put as one of your best gigs? Or and is there a gig that was like a not as good gig where everything could have just all gone wrong, but you kind of look at it in a more humorous way? Or it could be something that is just, not a good experience, something that you learned or something. I don't know. It's up to you.
Oh, okay. That let's see. You know, I never thought about that before, and I think I have an answer. I have a problem with being 100% in the moment. And what I mean is that I'm always looking toward. I'm always looking for the next level of myself. I'm always striving to be better. So it's funny that sometimes the gigs that were on fire, I didn't accept them as that fire until like later when I heard a recording, and I was like, oh wow, that was happening. Like, man,
I was cutting up.
right? Like, man, I didn't know I was doing them like that, you know.
Laying down the bone.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, I could talk about. Of course, I had a lot of fun with Roy Hargrove. I mean, and I could just talk about the local musicians that I played with. There were a lot of great gigs, and just a lot of great moments. It's really hard to nail down one because fortunately, I've played with a lot of the who's who of the Detroit scene. I've played gigs with them, and they're always on a high level, or at least the goal is always to present the music on a high level. So it's really hard to nail down one. I've been having gigs like this since I was a kid because when I was like 18 years old or 19 or something like that, I was playing with the Rodney Whitaker Octet. It was also called the Rodney Whitaker Ensemble or New World Order. And this was a band that had people like James Carter, Alex Harding, Dwight Adams, Craig Taborn even played with us, Earl Cleaver, you know, and we were just in our early 20s, and we were going for it, man. Like we really wanted to put ourselves next to. We wanted to live up to what we loved in the music. Yeah, but what I was saying is that I think I need to learn how to be in the moment more so that I can really enjoy those moments. I can say that if I could change anything, I would have recorded more or most of my gigs throughout my life because it would have been beautiful to be able to look back on those gigs that were great moments, and that music is just in the air. It's people can talk about remember that time when you played at the blah blah blah, and all I can do is say sort of how I can't really remember.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll turn that into some advice. Like you certainly have the technology now to try to record yourselves as much as possible, because when you're in the moment playing, you're it's kind of like it's a type of job in that you're really working out. It's a workout. You're trying to successfully get through the gig. Of course, there's high points where the drummer did this, the piano player did that, or you pulled off an idea that you went for. But sometimes you can't really embrace those moments until later when you've heard the recordings. Even when you hear them on the first time, you might hate it at first, and then you listen to it 3 more times, and then you start realizing what was killing about it, because we're so critical of ourselves that we almost down ourselves before we give ourselves props. Now, when it comes to crazy gigs or funny gigs, I can't think of any at the moment, but it would probably be a wedding gig or something like that. That was crazy. You know, some of those gigs can be undesirable. But to be honest, I've had the great fortune of playing on a professional level since I graduated from high school, and most of my gigs have been with people who really cared about presenting the music in a good way. So I can't really say that I've ever really been on really bad gigs.
That sounds great.
Yeah, even when I play with students, I still prepare them in the way that they present the music. And I'm talking about students who are not as mature as the two of you are. You're playing on a professional level, but I'm talking about like high school people who are playing on like a high school level. I can still get them prepare the music well enough and present it to where it's something that I'm proud of. So I can say that.
Great. That sounds good, and I can definitely attest to the wedding gigs being funky, because I think that's just a place where that happens. The wedding musicians are like a different breed of musician because they have to literally deal with like angry with the moms of the bride, all types of situations. So shout out to those musicians. And also, yeah, that in terms of what you're saying, like the being in the moment, it's so interesting how it's just how you said, like you can't maybe it is because that you're so in the moment that you kind of you can't necessarily remember what just happened because that moment has passed, so you're not exactly sure what happened. So it's kind of interesting that you're saying that like you can't remember, because to me it almost sounds like you actually are in the moment, because like you look back and you're like, oh, I'm not sure like what that was, like maybe that was good, but like you can't necessarily remember because in that moment you are so in it that it like you can't that feeling has kind of like passed because you're not there anymore. And then you listen to the recording and you're like, oh, that's how I was feeling. So that's, I don't know, that's just something that I kind of observed from what you were saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you literally take your brain into a whole nother state, and then you come out of it and you're like, where did I just go? So we've been through this pandemic. You talked a little bit about how you've been just trying to stay in, and you're just going out to the market. They did close down Wayne for a little bit, but I'm not sure if you guys could still go in. But during that time, what type of things were you improving on as just a human being in some musical aspects?
Well, the first few weeks, it took a lot of motivation from me. Like I realized how much having a performance coming up, even if it were like 2 months from now, I have a show. That could still be enough give me enough motivation to practice 2, 3 to 4 hours a day, thinking about a performance that's 2 months from now. But once everything was shut down and there's no sight of a live performance, I found that I didn't have as much motivation to practice. So the first thing I did is I started doing some reading. And I had gone to a concert at the Charles H. Wright Museum where Quincy Troop, the person who wrote Miles Davis's autobiography, was doing some spoken word with a local band. And he was selling his book called Miles and Me. And what that book told is the story of, him meeting Miles and everything about writing the autobiography, like his interactions with Miles Davis while he was writing the book and after. So I had gotten that book probably a year ago and I never read it. So I finally read that book. And what it made me do is go back and read the Miles Davis autobiography again, because I realized I read that when I was about 20 years old. And I was really curious to see how differently I would feel about Miles's life being, I'll be 50 this year.
Hey, big party,
Yeah.
big party.
Yeah. So I read that book again. And then hearing Miles Davis talk about his life and music inspired me to really focus on my my own music, and it really made me start thinking about how by the time he was 50, he had already spearheaded several different types of styles of jazz. He had already discovered his own voice. He had already started writing his music and all these things. And here I am. I have one record, and I was like, man, I'm really moving like a turtle. So, and I was thinking like all these tunes I have a sound already. I just haven't shown people what my sound is. So it really inspired me to get on this track that I'm on with performing my music. After that, I read a book on Sonny Rollins. Now I'm reading a book on Dexter Gordon.
Ooh.
Which is something I did more so. I did more of this kind of reading when I was your age, you and Mark's age. Reading about jazz, seeing the pictures, seeing concerts, which weren't as easy as they are now, to see them on YouTube. There was no YouTube when I was coming up. Those were the things that really inspired me to play. So I thought since I went into a deficit, that I would start reading about these musicians again, and it really has lit a new fire under me. So I am newly motivated, although there's no performance in sight. I do fantasize about my next record. I've already started making plans for my next record, what tunes I'm going to record. I have a stack of PDFs of my songs that I've written, formatted for a songbook that I'm going to make. I'm practicing my music every day, so I'm looking forward to a chance to be heard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
And we will definitely, we're going to buy them. We're going to buy all the records, and then we're just going to give them out. And we're going to promote so much.
Man, I encourage y'all not to wait until you're 50 years old to do this.
Yeah, we appreciate the advice.
This COVID helps you. This COVID helps you understand that. I always knew it, and you do always know it, that you never know what tomorrow will bring.
Right.
But I think something about having your life totally shut down is one thing to know that anything can happen any day. You want to celebrate every day of life, but you actually have a life. When your life gets shut down, when you can't even really go to a grocery store, and the artistic world is black right now. It's shut down. So when that happens, you're like, man, I'm wasting time. Like I really have to make sure I express myself, that I show the things that I've been working on and the things that I feel. It becomes more urgent. Mm-hmm. So hopefully that's what's happened to me over this break. I have a new urgency now.
Yeah.
That's definitely fantastic. With me and Mark, we're talking about that, or Mark and me, we're talking about that, just trying to keep going forward, and some days you take losses and you're like, oh man, I didn't do something that day, but I'm going to do better tomorrow,
That's it.
Just becoming better.
Exactly. To one of the things you mentioned, making sure you're being heard is one of the reasons we wanted to start this podcast, and we're motivated to continuously do it, is because we want to promote artists like you, so people can hear you, because we feel very strongly that you and many of the artists in Detroit are some of the most amazing musicians in the world, and totally need to be heard by people not only in our community but also in other communities. And the stuff that's going on here before COVID, there was definitely stuff that needed to be talked about and just understood, that like there's something happening here, and definitely catches people's interests. And so going on to talk about more about Detroit, what are your thoughts on, prior to the COVID? What are your thoughts on the Detroit jazz scene and how it's going, and what are some of the things you see that are happening and that kind of stuff?
Well, I love seeing. Well, okay. On the downside, we've lost some of our greatest mentors, modern mentors like Marcus Belgrave. Um, you know, and we don't have as many musicians of that stature on the scene anymore. I mean, there was a time when you had, musicians who were truly wise, highly experienced musicians, and uh, and so at my age, and musicians who are my age and older, we are now being put in that same light to hopefully uh, make a similar impact on the younger generations. So that's good. And what's nice about it is that there are organizations in the community that support that. Whether it's the Kresge, whether it's the Charles H. Wright Museum, the types of funding that they get in grants that they get to put on performances. The Carr Center, they're also getting grants and things like that to maintain the arts. And then there's like I said, there's enough venues that there's somewhere to hear music or play music on a nightly basis. But what we have is a new flock of musicians. Well, now the thing is the scene would be different had musicians my age stayed home. I came from a generation of musicians, and there, of course, those who are older or even or a decade younger than me, where as soon as we became a certain age, everyone would say, "You got to move to New York. You have to move to New York. You have to move to New York," and a lot of them did. So there's almost like there's a somewhat of a gap. There's really not a whole lot of musicians of my age group that's here in Detroit that's really making an impact on the scene. You could really kind of name us on probably on one or two hands. And then you have some musicians that are within a decade younger. It's still, the numbers are kind of low because a lot of those musicians, they want a way to make careers for themselves. But what we do have is we have a new flock of musicians who are young and excited about the music. I personally would like to see them continue developing in all directions, meaning that you're developing from the past, from the present, and you're developing from a future perspective. I think a lot of the musicians, I'm hearing a lot of young musicians whose focus is on the future, meaning some of the modern styles that are highly hip hop influenced, and I was raised with hip hop, so I love hip hop. It's one of my favorite styles of music next to jazz. But I want the musicians of your generation to continue learning from all eras of the music, and I like to see more of that. So sometimes it concerns me, although I like it. Sometimes it concerns me when I'm seeing the young bands basically playing hip hop music with improvisation all night, and they're playing song after song with with a lot of repetition. I just want so I think that's my only. I may not even call it a critique, because I never want to put myself in a position where I'm critiquing any generation of musicians, because you can only express yourself from who you are and your experiences, your community. I can't make anyone me. I can't help a 20-year-old see what I've seen. So, but what's always available is the heritage of the music, the lineage, and I just want to see. I'm looking forward to seeing more of that. Seeing the younger generation keep digging, keep acknowledging what happened before us, while keeping their eyes on the future.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, there are a lot of things going on in Detroit. There are a lot of ways you can support by either going out, posting it on Facebook. One of the new ways would be on our podcast on Fox News. So, what are some ways that you go out and support fellow musicians or artists in the Detroit area, and what are some ways that you see other people supporting each other?
I think the main way I support is that I'm a band leader and I'm an educator. And like I said, although I didn't start working full time, I had some full time work at U of M. Actually, it wasn't full time. It was just over part time. But it wasn't until my job here at Wayne State started in 2017 where my whole life is committed to music. If I'm not performing, I'm giving lessons or I'm teaching music. Now I've been teaching for 30 years, so I have a lot of musicians that can say that Vincent Chandler pulled me aside, or I asked Vincent Chandler a question and he took the time to answer my questions. And there's a long list of musicians who can say that I directly help them and pass information on to them. I spent time with them. Now, as a band leader, there's a lot of musicians, some of your favorite musicians, some of the musicians who are on the scene right now. They can say that I have hired them, that they've played in my bands and they've had experiences that they will always remember. That has made an impact on them when it comes to how they lead their bands. When I play my years with Urban Transport, I have a generation of musicians like people like Deshaun Jones, people, Curtis Taylor, people of that age group. They were the young guys. They were your age when I had Urban Transport, and they were coming out to Burt's, sitting in the audience, listening to us play all night. And those guys, incredibly innovative musicians, doing crazy, virtuoso things, but they will still say that people like Marcus Elliott, they will still say that hearing Urban Transport did this for me. So that's the biggest way that I've made an impact, in that I'm an educator. I've been an educator for years, and now officially in the universities at MSU, U of M, down south, and here at Wayne State. And I've been a band leader since I was 20 years old as well. And I've always made an impact through performing, because one of the main things that made me fall in love with music is hearing great music being played. And I know I've played in all of the venues throughout the city. I've played in the jazz festivals. I just did a thing at the Charles H. Wright Museum, and I know those concerts have a few young musicians sprinkled in the audience who will walk away inspired. Now I do, of course, on social media, I give shout outs when I see musicians in the area doing great things. I share their posts. I attend concerts when I can. I don't get out to hear music as much as I would like. Either I'm performing or I'm tired, and I'm married, so the wife It's like you've been going all day, you're not about to go out all night, you know, that kind of thing. So fellas, hang while you can.
We definitely will. We definitely will.
And we definitely do.
Enjoy the times. Oh man.
My gosh.
Man, it's hilarious when I literally have to tell somebody I cannot come out because my wife said so.
Hey, but you know, I get it. And
do you though? Do you, Dom?
No, I mean, like, I just get it from seeing my father, my mom, and you know, sometimes my mom would be like, "Nah, I can't go. He needs me at home." I'm like, "Oh, dang, all right, okay."
Yeah.
I'm just going to the gas station, but that's okay. Oh man,
we just had Jason Didia on the podcast, and he mentioned how you specifically are a person that hires like the younger musicians, like especially our peers, and it's like I feel like it's a thing for us younger musicians to look at it as like, you know, there are people that are hiring the younger musicians because they see that these people are like they have a fresh sound. So it's just an interesting way that it seems like also makes you stand out as somebody who's like, you know, younger musicians have something to say as well. Like, let's get them on the bandstand with us us from the older generation, and keep new people inspired and new people coming and playing. Another thing we wanted to ask you is like, because you're somebody that a lot of people in the community know, what are some kinds of things that can be done to increase exposure for musicians?
Well, certainly, you all want to take advantage of all of the different ways to of publicity. You know, like when it comes to social media. You know, this year I will finally get my own website. I think I kind of relied on social media to do that work, but I want to have my own website. But you have to target some of the more successful musicians in the community and get next to them. You know, you want to. It's almost like riding their coattails. You know, you want to make sure that you're going out to hear everybody. You have to determine who you would like to play with and introduce yourselves to them, these musicians. Take a lesson with them. Put it like this. The first time I played with Jerry Allen was as a result of being her student.
Mhm.
I was her student at University of Michigan during my master's degree program, and so she hired me on a few gigs in New York. I played at the Apollo Theater with Jerry Allen, Prospect Park. We did a festival. J.D. Allen was playing tenor saxophone on that gig. Casa overall, the drummer, he's very successful now. But the reason I got that gig is because I was her student, so she was aware of my work ethic, my sound, things like that. So now it's like, oh, let me put you on this gig. You can't assume that the musicians you want to play with, eyes and ears are on you. They're so busy thinking about their own voice. They're thinking about the things that they want to do with their lives, and they may not have their eyes on the scene. So you have to put yourselves in front of them. So you might literally take a lesson with somebody when you know your primary intent is for them to hear you, you know, so that you can be considered. So like say someone like Wendell Harrison. He's one of the local legends, and he would be somebody to get next to. And I already know this. People like Trunino, um, uh,
Lewis.
Lewis. A lot of these guys, they already go over to his house, take lessons with him. They share it with him, and it's no surprise that Wendell eventually hires them on gigs. So yeah, there's a lot of cases where students have an opportunity to play with their teachers when they show up for rehearsals, and then they have a chance to be considered. So you would want to create that kind of dynamic with musicians in the community. If you want to play with a James Carter, catch him when he's in town and try to hang out with him, try to talk to him, try to set up a scenario where you get to play for him, so he can consider you. You want to see if you can sit in with somebody. It might be somebody you really like. Say Deshaun Jones, phenomenal tenor saxophone player, and Iwi. Is that what it's called? Iwi player. He's just a phenomenal player. You might go to his gig and say, "Look, man, I really like your playing. Can I sit in on the last song?" Yeah. So you come up, you sit in, and then he hears you, and then he's like, okay. I hear you, young bro. And that's that type of thing. So I guess what I'm saying is, when you talk about notoriety in the community, it's going to start with your relationships with active musicians. Some of these musicians who are active in the community, you want to generate relationships with them. You want to get to know someone like Marion Hayden, and her son Tyreek is a drummer. So you might get to know him and end up over at their house sharing with him. And Marion's upstairs taking a nap, but she hears you downstairs playing with him. Like all of these kind of scenarios are the types of things that create opportunities. You have to figure out a way to make these opportunities be heard, because the business card has long been obsolete, in the sense that what musician who cares about your business card? I don't care how fancy it is. If I haven't heard you play, how am I going to consider you? Our business card is our playing, so we have to position ourselves to play for people. And we have to create those situations. There's no book on that. With every generation, with every type of environment, is different for every different type of environment. But you have to put yourselves in the pathway of people who are working, so you can ride their coattails and start learning from them.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much for that. Man,
Some great advice.
some really really great advices.
And I'm sorry. I just want to add one thing.
Yeah.
Like for my gig at the Charles H. Wright Museum, Janino was at my gig before I was there. He was literally there before I got there. Like, we had to get there early to rehearse and do a sound check. He was there before I got there for the early sound check, hours before the gig. And he helped me, bring the equipment in and things like that. Then he stayed for the gig. And, it's little things like that. Like, I'll never forget. So there's going to be moments where I say, okay, I'm going to get true on this gig, because I want to return the gesture. Sometimes it's that type of thing. And I know that this is something that he wants. He's showing that he wants this type of thing to happen. And it's just a matter of time before I give him that opportunity. I'm sorry, you can ask your next question.
Oh yeah. Thank you for saying that. Yeah, that is very. Yes, taking note right now. What are some influences for writing your compositions throughout the years?
You broke up, but I think I heard enough of your question when it comes to my influences as a composer. I naturally had a desire to write music. I'm self-taught when it comes to that. At least initially self-taught. The first writer's music I loved outside of the legends. I used to love Rodney Whitaker's music. We were friends when he was a young guy playing with Terrence Blanchard, and when he started playing with Roy as a Lincoln Center. And and Rodney wrote a lot of the music on Of Kindred Souls, that Roy Hargrove record. I was able to be sitting at the piano with him showing me those songs before he recorded them with Roy, and before they were lighting up the stage with those songs. I got a chance to see him sit at the piano and say, "Vince, check this out." So he was one of my first main influences when it came to direct influences when it came to writing tunes. Like it inspired me to want to do something beautiful like that. And then from there, people like Wayne Shorter is my all-time favorite jazz composer, and then Terrence Blanchard is also one of my favorite jazz composers. But then the list goes on and on. I love people. I love all the people you love. Kenny Garrett all the way back to, I love Ambrose Akinmusire all the way back to Louis Armstrong. No one unique. I just love all of the great innovators of music. And now, to really answer your question, I think you increase your artistic potential by composing, and you increase your opportunity to make a particular impact on a listener by writing your own tunes. Because, like, I can have an experience where I lost my job and I got a divorce as a result of it because I was broke. My wife left me, and the song that I would write from that, the moment that I can share that song with the audience, and even tell them the story behind the song, I now become more human to them. You know how a musician can be so good that they're almost not human.
Yes.
They can be so clean, so perfect, their technique so amazing that it's like, man, this guy is not human. But when you write music and there's a story behind your music, you have an opportunity to become very human to the audience and to really connect with their heart condition. And I've always enjoyed that opportunity. So I'm always looking to, and I know that I don't copy all my songs. I have copied on purpose, but generally, 95% of the time, I don't copy when I compose. So I know that every song that I've written is going to have a unique twist, and it's going to give me an opportunity to explore a different part of myself, or to develop a different part of my improvisational abilities. So that's something that also has inspired me to write. But I love the great writers, Horace Silver, Wayne Shorter, Joe Henderson. I love his tunes. Lee Morgan. The list goes on and on.
Charlie Parker, yeah. Ooh. Just so many great composers.
And just like I said, like when you think about Kenny Garrett never had to perform an original tune, and he still would have been one of the great alto saxophone players that people look up to, and they say, "Oh, that guy's the man." But when you pair his tunes, now you get kind of a different look at who he is as a person, beyond just improvising. You really get a sense of his heart condition. Like what he loves, what he cares about, what's special to him. His humanity. You get a little more of that than the person who is simply going to, play the mess out of some chords. When you write a tune, you get that. It's more personable.
You get to play the mess out of your own chord. Yeah.
Yep.
So we mentioned earlier, we were talking about why am I blanking on this? Your song that is very popular, Bird's Nest, and we were talking about how that is a feature where you scat, and that is
Right.
another thing that you are very well known for is scatting. So can you tell us how you got into scatting, and is there any connection between scatting and playing the trombone? Does one influence the other?
Yes, and I, like for some reason my voice, I'm more uninhibited with my voice, and that wasn't something that I practiced like a separate instrument. I would just always sing the music I was listening to. You know, like I get a new John Coltrane record, and I would listen to it so much that I could sing the solos, and I would blast the music and I would be screaming the solos. You know, like singing along with John Coltrane, and I didn't have the technique or the ears to play it on the trombone, but I could sing it. I could sing some of the solos. So the very first time I scattered in public, I had gotten a scholarship. Actually, it was a Detroit Jazz Festival. I was selected as the best young soloist or something like that, and I got a scholarship to go to the Manhattan School of Music summer jazz camp. And for our final concert, why am I drawing? I got Thad Jones in my head, but what's the trumpet player that modeled himself after Dizzy Gillespie? Why am I drawing a blank? Faddis, John Faddis.
Yep.
John Faddis was the guest artist. So we had a song that we played together. Like I was the featured soloist in New York, the Manhattan University School of Music, and when I go up to play the song with John Faddis, he waves my horn down and he says, "Wait, we're going to do a little something first." He says, "I'm going to do something to Vincent that Dizzy Gillespie did to me." You got to imagine, I'm freaking out. I was already scared anyway.
Oh man.
Yeah.
And he said, "We're going to scat." He said, "We're going to scat," because he didn't know I could scat. I didn't know I could scat. I knew I'd been scatting, but I didn't know that I could like form scatting. And he thought he was really gonna really get me, but fortunately, it's something that I'd already been doing, singing with records. And he was like, "I'm going to do this to Vincent because it's important for all musicians to scat. We should all sing, no matter what our instruments is. We should scat." So we go through this whole thing where we're scatting and trading, and that there was that moment. Years later, I had a gig. My chops got tired in Ann Arbor. I think the club was called the Firefly. Either it was the Firefly or the Bird of Paradise. Same venue, different names, different owners. Got to the end of a gig, chops got tired, and I told the audience that I said, "Look, my chops are tired. I'm going to scat this next song." I said, "If you like it, let me know, and if you don't like it, let me know, and I'll never do this again. Basically, I'll never scat again if you tell me you don't like it." So I scattered, and the audience went crazy, more crazy than anything I had played that whole night. They just loved what I did, and so from that point on, as a band leader, I would almost try to scat at least once a night gig, and I have consistently gotten the same response that no matter what I played that night on the trombone, that once I scat, that has always been like the highest moment. So I've kind of been my trombone self has always been jealous of my scat self.
Wow. That's a thrilling story.
Have you ever tried to just combine the two?
Well,
Or shoot.
I have a.
Yep.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but I have a song on Embraceable called "So What Now," and I take a trombone solo and I scat on that song. So that's the only time I've done that. And really what happened is where I scattered was originally a tenor saxophone solo. I went and muted that solo, and I scattered it over because just like you're thinking, I wanted to have. I'm kind of like how do they call it, a triple threat in that I'm a composer, I'm a trombonist, and I'm a scat singer. So that record features an original composition. Is I think is a very unique composition, and I know it's a unique composition because some of the chords I made up. They're not regular chords. So I know it's a unique composition because it's experimental, and I take a trombone solo on it and I scat on that song. So if you never heard that song, play that. And I haven't done enough quartet gigs because I've never really felt confident enough in my voice to be the only horn player. So I always kind of have a quintet, sextet, septet, something like that. But the times that I've done quartet gigs, I sing on those gigs because I feel like, I hate to say it, that I feel like me in a trombone quartet is not enough to carry the gig. So I usually sing on those gigs. So it's those times when I'll do all three. I'll even sing lyrics, play my horn, and I'll scat.
Ooh, do we hear a potential concert coming in the future?
Yeah, because I really have to, like I mentioned, I want to make not only a commitment to playing my own original music beyond anything I've ever done, because I've been playing my songs, but I want to really, really make a commitment to playing my music. I also want to make a bigger commitment to my improvisation, and because when I listen to the great musicians, the people I admire, their improvisation stands alone. Like you really want to hear Sonny Rollins solo. I mean, the song might be killing, but you really want to hear his solo. So his solo could live by itself. So in the way that they develop that kind of improvisational ability is playing by themselves, playing in duos, trios, quartets, where they were the only or the main voice taking the solo. So they really, really developed. They had the responsibility where I have to carry this band as the soloist, because like especially when you do a trio, if like for instance, Mark, if you do a trio with bass and drums, you're going to really carry a heavy improvisational load.
Yeah.
And, so I am now really wanting to see if I can make a quartet situation or a trio situation interesting. And what do I have to do as a trombonist to be interesting, to be captivating, and versus having a whole septet on the stage with me where I got like 6 other heavy hitters, where I only have 2 other musicians on the stage, and I have to be strong enough to play the whole night, and creative enough and consistent enough within my voice that I could carry a small group. So that's really where I'm headed with that.
Definitely.
Cannot wait to hear it. Can't wait to hear it. Just a big story that Mark told me, and you kind of touched on it previously, just talking. We heard that you locked yourself in the room and listened to Coltrane for multiple hours and sometimes even days when you were younger. Can you tell us about those stories?
Well, no, I mean, all I can say is that I've spent thousands of hours listening to this great music, and it is what we all have to do. I mean, it's absolutely the most important aspect of becoming a musician is listening to the music that you want to play, or listening to all types of music, so that your inspiration is diverse, so that your influences are diverse. Like our forefathers didn't just listen to the jazz musicians before them. They listened to European classical music or world music. So I know that I'm not unique in that sense. I know all of my peers have had their moments where they locked themselves in a room. And the thing was, like, even when I first started doing that, I was like 16, 17 years old, and I had first heard like Kind of Blue and Moment and Blue Train, and I would come home from school. And I don't even think I would really even say hi to my family. I would just go straight up to my room where I had my cassette player, and I would put that tape on. I would listen to it all night. Eventually got to a point to where my father wouldn't let me do it, like, because he felt I was obsessed. Like, and he would have to pull me out of the room, because I would just sit there and listen to that music over and over and over and over again. So I just think obsession can be healthy. It can be dangerous, but it could also be very healthy when it comes to achieving your dreams. Like, if being obsessed is a reflection of your love, and the love is in a good place. I mean, the love is a wholesome type of love. Meaning that's not egotistical, it's not about money, or it's not about whatever, and to be obsessed is ideal, and I think a lot of, especially when you're young, when you have the time and the space to really devote endless hours to this music. But once you get of a certain age, you may get married, have a wife, some kids, some pets, house, car bills, you won't really have that kind of room anymore. So this is a good time in your life to really make that commitment to listening that I did primarily when I was younger. Last thing about that, even now I go on what I call marathon. Like when I was reading the Sonny Rollins book, or first when I was reading rereading the Miles Davis autobiography. As I was reading that book, I was listening to all of the music that he talked about in that book. It was kind of like it was a textbook. So for weeks, I was doing nothing but listening to Miles Davis, listening to every record, live records, all of the records that he was talking about, and I got such an insight. Same with the Sonny Rollins book. As he talked about a record, I went and listened to it. And I would go to Wikipedia, read about it, the personnel, label, all those types of things. So that's a type of commitment to the listening that we all should have.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic. That's like I think that's just timeless advice that is very, very very, very strong. So you have obviously played with so many musicians, like we mentioned in the bio. There's tons more. Are there any lesser known experiences that you don't share as much that you would be willing to share? Something that stands out to you. You've mentioned to me how you played with Roy Hargrove at the Detroit Jazz Festival when you like stayed up all night listening to his music, and then you were able to play with Roy. Are there any experiences like that are, I guess, lesser known?
Well, James Carter was one of those types of musicians that I looked up to. It was one of the first heroes that I had. Like, we're the same age, pretty much, but James James always could play on as long as I can remember. He was a virtuoso, and he had the whole lineage of tenor saxophone or saxophonists. He had it under his fingers. He could do it, and I remember playing in jam sessions with him. But one time I got a chance to play a concert with him where we played Epistrophe, and I just remember shedding that song, for hours, and listening to records. I was trying to learn the solos from the records because I didn't want to let the music down, because I felt that if James took a solo and then I came after him and took a solo that was so much lesser in intensity and creativity, I felt it would hurt the music. And so I never wanted to let the music down. The emotional line of the music, I never wanted to let it down. So I always wanted to try to figure out a way, like, how can I measure up? And there's very few trombonists in the world that can go toe to toe with James Carter and truly measure up pound for pound. But when it comes to musical intensity, there's ways you can do that. Like Miles Davis had to play with Train. When Train was playing with sheets of sound, Miles Davis still measured up by playing with a certain amount of economy and space and a certain type of melodic, lyrical way of playing, that it measured up to what Train played. It didn't let the music down, or the experience of the music down. So that was moments like that. I've had moments like that with other musicians in the community. But I would have to. I would take up a lot of time if I really tried to go back through, hash out a lot of those moments. But I think when you're a developing musician, you're going to have a lot of moments when you're trying to live up to the moment. When you're in a room with musicians, you feel like, maybe I don't deserve to be here. They might be looking at you like, why are you here? You have to show them that you deserve to be there.
Right.
That's going to happen. That's going to continue to happen to you, and hopefully it happens your whole life, because you always want opportunity to get better. It's nothing like playing with some musicians that challenge you, that gives you that opportunity.
Definitely.
Yes. You talked a little bit about earlier. You are practicing in the in Wayne State, in Old Main. Like, you're there kind of by yourself a lot of the time. How do you approach practicing, or like, do you have a routine that you do, or do you just go day by day?
Well, I do have. I always seem to have particular things that I'm working on. I spend a lot of time working on ideas that I come up with that I feel will help me express myself freely. So I don't have a history of transcribing. On one hand, I regret that, because I do know that a lot of my favorite musicians have that history of transcribing, and that's how they achieve the level of greatness that they have. So I do regret that, and I don't say that out loud to encourage people not to do it. That's some work that I didn't do it, and I'm almost 50. I'll be 50. I'm not gonna do it. It's too late for me. At least I'm not motivated. I'm more motivated by trying to figure out the ideas that I have in my head. And I feel like I've always felt like I had enough ideas that if I could just play what I want to play, I would be happy with that, versus I need to play what JJ played, I need to play what Curtis played in order for me to become a great. I felt like I have ideas. I have enough ideas that if I could just play those things. Now, with that said, I work on the technique, because after listening to myself, I realized that my technique is one of the things that's still holding me back, or lack thereof, that's holding me back from expressing my ideas. So I'm always at the drawing board. Like, I'm always working on the fundamentals with my embouchure, with breathing, with tonguing technique, slide technique. I enjoy scale studies, and I enjoy conceptual type things. and I'm always working on things of that nature. But then I'm using songs to isolate certain improvisational techniques or ideas. So and now I'm practicing my songs. So I'm really just working on figuring out how I want to improvise on my songs. But usually I would take standards. I would try to determine how I want to play on them, and I come up with different types of concepts to do that.
Definitely.
Beautiful.
So, you're an educator, and part of that is, like we've been talking about, you have a lot of experience. What is something? It doesn't necessarily have to be related to experience, but I guess something in life that you will never forget that you use constantly, whether it's a quote or a concept that you always, something that you cherish like that.
Well, I think one of the biggest things that influence me is love being manifest through sound. The and that is the impression I got of John Coltrane, like the that his music was an expression of love. And a Love Supreme did that for me more than anything. Hearing a Love Supreme, reading his prayer, his poem, hearing the story of his life will forever be something that influences what I do, because his love of God, his search for that level of inner peace and appreciation and gratitude, and those types of things he got from God. He was in search for that, and that became the answer for him, and he expressed that in his music. So I think that's probably one of the single most things that always resonates with me, is to always search for righteousness, and love, and compassion, and to understand that I just heard it in a movie. There's a movie that said this line where she was like, the reason why I love magic is because not so much because of the trick itself. I love great lengths that the magician went through, how much he loves pulling off the trick, and how much time he devoted to pulling off the trick. He believes that's the true magic, that's the true love. And so when I listen to Train, you hear a record of John Coltrane, that's a culmination of his love, him putting in thousands and thousands of hours of hard work just to share something beautiful with an audience. So
Right.
I would have to say is not your answer. To answer your question, is I can't remember in the moment anything that was said directly. Oh, actually, I do. I'm gonna say it. It'll be quick, but I'll just wrap this up. The main thing is to do and love is a verb, so it's something that you have to cultivate. You have to learn how to love. You have to improve your ability to love and care and be compassionate. So John Coltrane is someone who gave me that kind of inspiration to continue in that evolution. Now, I can tell you a quick story about something that was said to me when I was younger that made an impact. When Marcellus was in town, he was doing a master class. He was just talking about all the practicing and stuff that we had to do. And he kept saying, you got to be a man about this. You got to be a man about this. You got to do this. You got to do that. Then you need to do this. You need to man up. You got to be a man about this. And And I remember after the master class, I was thinking like, what is he talking about? What is he talking about? Be a man about? What does being a man about this have to do with learning to play your high notes or your low notes, or to play fast or slow? And I never forget when I really understood what he meant. And what he meant is that ultimately in life, what we want to do is we want to be independent. We want to be able to feed ourselves and our loved ones if we're providers. We want to be able to put ourselves in a home, have a car to drive, have clothes to wear, eat regularly, and those are that's like kind of like the essence of being a grown man, is to be responsible for those types of things. Now, how we do it is up to us. Like I could be a carpenter, I can be an engineer, but in all of those things, I have to be a man about it. I have to man up, meaning that I have to understand that I am developing the tools to take care of, to be a man and to provide for my loved ones and help the people around me, and to support a living. So I never forgot him saying, you need to be a man about this. And I was recently yelling at a student about that. He got offended because he was too young to get that message. He was too young to understand where I was coming from. Where I said, I'm going to talk to you man to man. I'm giving you the respect as a young man, and I'm saying you need to man up. And honorable man, not late. An honorable man is not lazy. An honorable man is not someone who, you understand what I'm saying? So
yeah.
As students, it is as professors, it is our responsibility to give you a sense of what you need, at least according to our perspectives. We can't give you everything, but according to our perspectives, these are the things you need to do. Or the school itself has a curriculum that it says, in order for you to position yourself to man up in this as a musician, you need to fill this curriculum outline. We set that standard for you, and it's important for you to reach it and to realize it. And from doing that, you will put yourself in a position for certain types of success. Like I didn't graduate from college until I was 40 years old. It wasn't until then that I put myself in a position to get a full-time job at a college. So this is something that you can do in about the next 2 or 3 years. You can position yourself to get a job like this, or a job in a high school. If you man up now, or you can put on some of the types of, you have to understand some of those great concerts we hear of our innovators, those concerts were when they were in their 20s and 30s. Some of that great music that we heard. I think about the great music of Clifford Brown that happened when he was in his mid-20s. He manned up early. He was like, look, man, I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to make my living. And I'm going in and I'm going to make sure that I can provide a life for myself with music. So when I think when Marcellus for emphasizing that, nailing that in for me.
I thank you for nailing that in for us and our audience in general. Kind of on a lesser note, do you have any hobbies that you do? This can be watching Pretty Little Liars on Netflix, or yo-yoing. Do you have any hobbies?
I think Pretty Little Lies was one of them. I think I did watch that series. Let me see.
Man,
I'm at home with the wife, so we do, and we will sink our teeth into different series. Like I like this one. I think, what is it called? Billions or Billion? What is it called? I'm bad. I'm bad. My memory is terrible with the names of these shows. But
You're good. I can't remember that half of the two that I know.
but outside of that, I can't really say I have a hobby now. I mean, when I was younger, I liked to play basketball and work out. I think my testosterone must be low. Like not I'm almost 50. I just don't have the motivation to work out like I used to. But I'm constantly forcing myself to try to get back in the gym. It's not on the level of a hobby like it used to be. Like I used to love working out. Like I was really fascinated with it and the results. But now it's such a chore to work out and keep in shape. I can't really call that a hobby. I think my days is filled with music and spirituality and spending time with the wife. So I can't say I'm not the most exciting person. I'm not the most worldly person. You know, I watch
You're very
movies.
exciting.
Thank you, man. I appreciate it.
You're very exciting.
Yeah. Thank you.
No problem. I mean,
So
you're older. I mean, you're more focused.
What's that supposed to mean?
Us here. Well, no. I'm just saying you're more focused than us. And are like, man, I think I might try Pokemon, or I'm gonna play some Minecraft or something like that.
Oh my God.
But I was playing this pool game on my iPhone. I think it's called 8 Ball. I had to just get rid of that game because I really could sit and play that for way too long. I think now I'm trying to make reading my new hobby. I'm trying to I want to branch away from just reading about jazz. Knowledge is power,
Yes.
and knowledge is it's empowering, meaning that like it empowers you, it can inspire you, and really send you in a direction that you originally weren't on. You know, like it can really open up some pathways for you. So I want to make sure that I'm always reading something, and that hasn't always been the case. Usually, I'm only reading things that pertain to the classes I teach, and other than that, I'm shedding and trying to play gigs. But now I'm trying to set aside time to not only read the Bible. I want to make sure I'm reading the Bible on a daily basis, Bible studies. But also make sure that I'm reading things, and I want to start branching away from just jazz.
Definitely.
Yeah. If you want a good book, I Am Malala is a really great book.
I Am Lala. Okay.
She is she was well, she still is. She's an activist, and she came from Pakistan, and she lived in a town called Swat, and she was shot by the Taliban for standing up for education for women. Really great book.
So we're pretty much at the end of the podcast, and what we like to do at the end is we like to come full circle. So we put you on the spot at the beginning, and we put you on the spot at the end. So this section we call Hip the Listener, and this is where we have you, the guest, hip the listeners to anything, whether it be music, art, events, movies, documentaries, or whatever you want. Hip the listener.
Okay. Let's see. I'll keep it to music, and I'm assuming that we certain percentage of the listeners will be jazz musicians. There's this guy named Chad Lefkowitz, tenor saxophone player. I really like his playing, but he's also a great educator. He's made a series of books on jazz improvisation and other things, like even arranging and things like that. You could purchase his books online. He has like an online store, and you can download them as PDFs. The book that I'm obsessed with now, I practice on a daily basis, is this book on it's 15 approach, tone, and enclosure exercises.
Yes.
And it's really, for someone like me who didn't do the work of transcribing, it's really opened up bebop phrasing like it's never been opened up to me before. Like how to really deal with the chromaticism of Charlie Parker and Clifford Brown and the approach tones, the chromaticisms, and the enclosures that they do. There's 15 exercises. Now, so what I've done, the book has each exercise written in all 12 keys. I only look at the first exercise and then I take them through all 12 keys myself. And I can successfully play all of the exercises in the book. And what I've done is I have what I call extensions of those exercises, meaning that I expound on it just to really elaborate on the concept, and I try to open up other. I try to really fulfill the potential of these melodic ideas. And then what I noticed is you can apply approach tones to any scale. So like I'm using Chad Lefkowitz's book on 15 approach, tone, and enclosure exercises that he does them on. He uses major scales to do these exercises. I'm taking them through minor scales, pentatonic scales, and I'm learning to chromaticize anything at will. So it's really helping me become a more chromatic player. Is giving me a sense of targeting notes even better, like hoobo baby da, hey baddy doo boo boo hoobo, hey baddy doo headed doo be added doo oh said doo hey baddy doo lo beded no de ba head doo da ba hoo doo de baddy doo la. That kind of movement. That book has really nailed it in for me. So I'll say that. So it's kind of playing you can get if you're transcribing great bebop players. You are already doing these types of ideas, but I'm coming to it from a more of a improvisational technique, and it's still having a great benefit on me. It's really helping it's helping to make my playing a little slicker. I think a little more smoothing out my phrasing. So I'll help you to that book.
We will definitely put that in the description. So now we have even quicker stuff. We have rapid fire questions, the MDetroit podcast rapid fire questions, and we're just gonna ask you about 7 questions, and you just fire on. So here we go. Top 3 albums.
Kind of Blue, Love Supreme, and I would have to say Blue Train.
What is in your current music rotation?
Right now I'm on a Kenny Garrett marathon. So I've been and also I'm on Terrence Blanchard because I'm kind of like a friend of Terrence's, and when he was last in town, we hung out together because we went to go and see Curtis Fuller together, but unfortunately Curtis Fuller wasn't there. But Terrence sent me he sent me unmixed mastered tracks to his upcoming album. So his upcoming album, I have all of that. So I've been listening to it, and it is crazy. Like
Wow.
the level of composition and arranging on this record is really like he's really going to shock the world with this level of compositional arranging ability. So now, when he was in town, he said that he could give me like a 30-minute lesson in composition that would change my life. And he was supposed to come back for the Champion, but of course we had COVID-19, and the Michigan Opera Theater canceled their performance of Champion. My wife was featured in that. He was going to come back. He was going to give me that lesson. So what I did is I said, before I call him up to try to get that lesson, I'm going to really study him. I'd already been a fan and already been listening to his music. But I went back through and listened to all of his records. And Wikipedia is a decent source, just like give you a basic outline of each of these records. Like they all have a wiki page for these records. So right now it's not one record. I'm doing these marathons where I just comb through a person's history of records.
Sure.
Gotcha. Top 3 places to eat.
Let's see. Well, I have to go by where I've gone the most often. I hate to admit it, like Five Guys.
Yeah.
Five Guys is great.
Yeah, I know it should be something healthier, but probably
You clean it up with satire.
right.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now, because it's just me and my wife, it wasn't until this COVID-19 where we were really eating at home, but we would eat out so regularly, especially me, that it's really hard to say what my other favorites are, because I was just always eating out and at a lot of different restaurants. But let's see, what do I like? I can't really nail down any other Californian pizza kitchen. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, I know what I like. What's the Asian restaurant?
Your Panda Express.
No, it's a little more up than that.
Is it the one on campus?
No, it's a franchise.
Okay.
I can't even think of it now.
Should you got me think about it, Billy? All the Asian restaurants I like are just Detroit, like the Golden Bowl.
Heck, man, this happens when you're my age.
Oh man.
You're fine. Can't wait to get there.
I can't for some reason I can't think of the name of it, but I can't really say I have any favorites. I eat all over the place, everywhere. You name it.
Gotcha.
Least favorite color?
Pink.
Mm.
Yeah, I would have to say pink is my least favorite.
Gotcha. Streetwear or suit?
Now, it's only a suit because I prefer streetwear, but I wear a suit because I believe in showing gratitude for employment, and like I said, I spent many years wearing funny uniforms that you don't want no girl that you like to see you in these uniforms. with the hats that you got to wear and all this kind of stuff. So when I get a job like this as a professor, it's a chance to look like a professor and like put some suits on, wear some bow ties,
And these
and
suits be looking slick as hell.
thank you. And also, I'm happy you say that, man, because I think the second part of it is that I want young people to look up to that, in the sense that not look up to me, but they look up to, man, I'm looking forward to an opportunity for me to have a job where I can wear a suit every day, you know, and I want to, and especially for the younger generation, particularly African American males who, I think everybody's doing it now, but in our communities, we got the years and years of sagging our pants.
Yeah.
You know, so, and I'm cool with that, and you can even see me with my pants sagging, because I was sagging it before my generation was wearing baggy pants or loose pants before yours. But the point is that there's that mainstream society where people are wearing suits. Of course, when you go to church, or when you go for job interviews, or when whatever, you're wearing suits. So I want to be able to present myself in a professional manner as a role model. So I prefer street clothes. I really do prefer street clothes, believe it or not. But I like to wear I'm suits first because of where I am in my career.
Definitely.
Gotcha.
Favorite John Coltrane tune?
It's either Dear Lord or After the Rain.
All right.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tenor, trombone, or with the trigger?
Now the you can have a tenor trombone with the trigger, but my horn is a large bore with the trigger, and I've always preferred the large bore, but since I've really had a lot of time to listen to myself, I'm really thinking about moving away from the large bore, because I think that the smaller bore has it's easier to get to the core of your sound. The sound, the larger horn the sound spreads more, so you can get a nice big full puffy, fluffy sound. But when you're playing with certain drummers or certain types of horn players, you need a horn that cuts more. So I'm thinking in the near future you're going to see me start playing just a tenor trombone. Once I get the right horn, that's the thing, is to be able to buy the right one.
Gotcha.
All right, this is the last rapid fire question. John Coltrane or J.J. Johnson?
I have to say John Coltrane, because although J.J. Johnson really was the blueprint, prototype of how the language of a saxophonist can be translated by a trombonist. When I look at John Coltrane, I look beyond his success as just a horn player, and I really look at the big picture, like his impact on society. And it's not just me. Like you literally have a church of John Coltrane somewhere in California. To show you like how much sense of spirituality in reflected in music has made an impact on people. So JJ was a great trombonist, great composer, a great innovator. But to me, but JJ didn't make an impact on me as big an emotional impact and as big a spiritual impact as John Coltrane. So definitely John Coltrane.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Beautiful. Is there anything else that you would like to leave with the audience? And this could be anything. Just anything you want to leave with the audience and the listeners. and musicians and artists?
Well, I guess I can say this because, like I said, I'll be 50 this year, and I feel like I'm 20 in my desire to express myself and and to develop my voice, meaning reach my fullest potential. And what I can say to the audience is make good decisions. Try your best to not be distracted. You ideally you want to try to get to where I am now early. So you really want to try to avoid distractions and not let life detour you from accomplishing you reaching your fullest potential. So I think, but at the same time, I can also say that there's no expiration date on creativity and artistry. So you might look at the guy with the gray hair, but that doesn't make him less important in what he has to say than the young, hot, new kid on the block that's doing all the things that's never been done before. We're never too old. So understand that you are a work in progress. You are a life's work that you will do this for the rest of your life, and you will never feel a sense of completion. There's always room to grow and a desire to grow. So that's a beautiful thing about what you have decided to do as musicians. You just have to make sure that you maintain your opportunity to get to it. I mean, you start making certain types of decisions, you could remove your own dream. You could block your own blessings in your dreams.
Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Advice.
Yeah, very, very wonderful advice.
Where can people find you if people want to find your music, if they want to find in teaching online stuff or anything? Where can people find you?
Well, at the moment, and that's something that I really will work out soon. Like I do have an urgency to do this now. At the moment, I do have Embraceable. I uploaded that to YouTube for people to hear. So if you search Vincent Chandler Embraceable, you can hear my only record as a leader. There are some other clips of me playing that have been uploaded to YouTube, but most of them are not videos that I chose to be uploaded. I'm not really that proud of. So that's something I could just say. Be patient with me. In a very short time to come, I'm going to start making myself more accessible. I'm going to develop a website. I'm going to start recording some new music this year. And you can look for me. Of course, now there's nothing on the books because everything's been canceled. But I'm going to continue to perform throughout the city. I play in places like the Blue Llama, Dirty Dog Jazz Cafe, Cliff Bells, and I'll continue to show up.
Sounds great.
Well, thank you so much, Professor. You have filled us all the way to the top with just wonderful information, advice, knowledge, just everything. We just really want to thank you for that.
I'm honored, and I'm happy that you chose me to do this because it's exactly what I want to do. For people that care about what we do, I want to make sure that I share what I've learned and my experiences because I know it can make an impact. So thank you for giving me a platform.
We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
the Professor Vincent Chandler. Thank you so much for that conversation.
If you like this podcast, check us out on our website, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Our very next podcast, we'll have photographer Jeff Dunn.